So in this lesson I'm going to show you a very basic introduction to isometric drawing using isometric paper. This lesson isn't actually aimed at Key Stage 4 Year 10 11 students, it's aimed at my Year 7s and 8s who are doing a project where they are designing a city. So isometric paper is a series of 30-degree and vertical lines. So to get our heads around it, first of all we're going to start by finding one hexagon and just drawing around the outside edge of it. Every line must be overlapping a line that's already on the grid. So there's our hexagon. To make this into a cube, we're going to draw a Y shape. So we're going to go down an angle here and then there. Now we'll use rendering, which is just colouring, but to show light, to fill in a dark side there and a lighter side there, and we'll leave that plain. Now, hopefully you can see that represents a small isometric cube. If you look at that cube and now look away to the rest of the page, hopefully you will be able to start to visualize cubes all over the page. So let's convert that into drawing a small building. Let's go with a basic house. I'm going to go 2 lines along this time and then up by 2. So it's the same thing, but twice the size. At the moment, you'll find to be using no ruler and light pencil because these are all just the basic sketched outlines of the shapes, and we'll work over, if this is our final design, with a fine liner. So I'm going to go halfway up from the middle now. So I've got 2 triangles here, so I'm going to go to the middle one and go up by a single line. This then will give me the structure to draw the roof. So if I now angle from there to there and there to there, you'll see that I have a roof shape appearing. Now you'll notice that those angled lines were not on the grid itself. I was moving between different points of the grid. That's because I'm drawing an angular shape. Now if you want to draw smaller details in, just remember the basic rules that every line has to be vertical or at 30 degrees. So if you go off the grid, then you are able to estimate those angles as you draw. So for example, a little door in here, make sure any vertical line remains vertical and any what would be horizontal lines are at 30 degrees. And we can go over this later with the pen to make it neater, but at the moment I'm just sketching that out. There's our little basic house. Now for a higher level, we're going to try and add some more complicated shapes and interlocking shapes. So let's try adding a garage to here. So if we go along by 2 from there and 2 from there, and then this time I'm only going to go up by 1. So I'm going to go up by 1 on my grid, staying on the grid, and just bring that across there. So there we have a single story garage. There are some internal lines here which I would remove when I go over with my fine liner. But if it's confusing you, you can just lightly rub them out for now, so you can see which lines you're supposed to be left with. There should of course be a connecting line here to the building. I'm now going to start to draw a couple more slightly complicated buildings, and then I'll do a bit of a time lapse to show how you create the whole thing. So let's add a road coming down here, and then let's bring a corner in going around the corner, and let's put a property on this corner that's a bit more interesting. So I'm going to start by doing my crate, which we looked at last lesson, and I've put a link to a video that involves information about crating at the end of this. So let's say that this is going to be a modern building, like a swimming pool or a leisure centre. Okay, I'm actually going to incorporate this line that I did as an example earlier. If I can hold on to the pencil. So I've got a higher section here, a lower section there. I've also got a little box here that's like a lower piece. That could be the reception area. I'm going to make it more complicated by incorporating some curves. So this is going to be a very modern piece of architecture. It's going to have a curve that comes up here. Well, I say modern, but relatively modern compared to the building. Another curve that comes up here. And then I'm going to put a curve at the top of there. Once I remove the other shapes, I've got a much more unusual shaped building that I can then add some rendering to make it look more 3-dimensional. Now remember, you're probably going to render this with pencil crayons to give the whole thing a really good finished effect, and I'm just demonstrating this to show you how rendering adds some 3D form to the shape. So this is an example of crating with isometric, and for this curve I'm going to go darker in the middle and then just bring it out to lighter there and then darker there to accentuate that curve and give it some tone and 3-dimensional form. And then the same here, go to a highlight at that point, and then from there onwards we're going to bring it darker around that curve. Now, not much like a building at the moment, so let's add some doors and give the impression of glass there by having an opening where you can see the inside, possibly an entranceway. And these could have areas of grass and trees. Obviously, if you're drawing organic shapes, you don't need to worry about staying on the grid. There's a little stylized tree there, and the same over there.